Hi, this is Jan Butler. I want to welcome you to Bowie News and Views. My special guest today is Ed Ciesielski. He is our best-selling author from Bowie. Welcome, Ed.
Glad to be here, Jan.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
So I'm a writer, so I'm certainly going to get back to grilling you because I think everybody that's watching, and certainly everybody in Bowie, and probably further than that, thinks that they have a book in them. So we kind of want to see how yours came about because Ed has written a book. It's called In Sheep's Clothing. And we're definitely going to talk about that. But we're going to get some background about Ed so you can see how he might have thought that there was a book in him. Ed is a resident now of Bowie, and he served on the Prince George's County Police Force from 1970 to 1990. And he had some temporary assignments with the U.S. Secret Service. And so definitely, I'm sure some of that factored in your book. Is that
Absolutely,
correct,
yes.
as far
In
as
fact,
background?
There's an entire chapter devoted to that. And that one encounter was during the Wallace shooting. May of '72. Up into Laurel Shopping Center in Laurel, of course. But again, the novel itself is an amalgam of different events in my life and my family's life, friends and family, and that sort of thing. But my main, again, I served as you explained, from 1970 until '90, and in different capacities throughout the police department. Highlight being, I guess, the Wallace shooting, and then homicide from 1976 to '81. Handled 59 cases. Well, I handled over 400 death investigations, 59 of which were murders, homicides, and 56 closures.
Okay.
So I take great pride in that effect, and I really don't think in this day and age. I think that record probably still holds. So
excellent.
Then I retired in 1990 out of the internal affairs section.
Okay. So the police force transferred you to them?
Yeah, through a series of promotions and just different assignments, needs of the department. They kind of put you where your expertise is, and
sure,
where you can best serve. Both sides. Both sides being to the best benefit of the police department, county, and the individual officer as well. And I've been gone some 21 years plus, but I don't think anything's changed. It's a good department.
Okay. So probably this uses some of that as background material from your time on the force, but do you have like more stories? What if you were just going to write a story about your time with the police department and not as extensive a story as this is? What might you choose?
Which individual item?
If you were going to write a story.
I handled a case in Lanham back around 1979 or 1980, a rather gruesome case around this time of the year where a gentleman had transformed. Again, it was a murder case, of course, and a person, he was psychotic of some sorts, and he had transgressed he started out with a Jesus Christ syndrome. He thought that he was Jesus.
Goodness.
And walked the neighborhood in robes and sandals and that sort of thing.
My goodness.
And he progressed to where he thought he was God.
Oof.
And killed his wife and that sort of thing. And it was pretty intense murder.
My goodness.
And without going into a lot of gory details, but yeah, that would probably bring, if I had one case to go on, that would be it.
Okay, interesting.
But a lot of them, a couple of the other ones that I've dealt with are included in my novel here.
Okay. Well, definitely, we're going to be able to talk more about the book. So I'm just going to kind of give you a hint. The the information on the back of the book, it's talking about this story beginning on June the 6th in 1944, when Corporal Paul Pinsky of the 101st Airborne Division is killed in action after he covers a hand grenade with his body during the D-Day invasion. So we know, in fact, that you're not old enough to have been at this, to have actual firsthand experience. So for your World War II references, how did you gain that information and experience?
Yes, well, all of my male uncles, well, all of my uncles, let's say, are, and my father is what I'm trying to get at, are World War II veterans. My father acts as one of the, he's a model for one of the characters in the book as well. The main character's father, in fact. And then I had another uncle that served as a paratrooper in Europe, another uncle that served as a merchant sailor, and then another uncle that served on a minesweeper in the Pacific. So, you know, I was surrounded. Again, I'm born one month to the day after the Japanese surrendered on the USS Missouri. So in fact, my dad was in the Navy. I was born. The war was over, just barely. He was in Korea, as a matter of fact, on a ship on board the USS Guam. It was a heavy cruiser, a battle cruiser, and was in Korea at the time. And so again, you know, my entire or my beginnings were based on World War II. You know, 1945, and then my dad came home, acclimated to civilian life, became a Baltimore City fireman. But in any case, the era that I was born in developed my interest to World War II, and especially through my family members, as did the entire story, in fact, not just with World War II, but just with, that's why I felt as though that I had a pretty good story to tell with this. It's based on my life experiences, as well as my father, relatives, and close friends, that sort of thing.
Okay, so it's just kind of stories that you'd sit around perhaps like at a holiday dinner or family dinner, and just kind of they would share memories that they had with you.
Well, they did, but my uncles you and I had discussed earlier, weren't real quick to talk about those things.
Yeah, that's often the case with especially the World War II veterans.
Correct. And my dad was on a ship for the most part, and he saw his share of action on Okinawa, but my uncle that was with the 17th Airborne was, can't recall, his biggest action was during the Battle of the Bulge and Operation Varsity, which was pretty intense, in that was where the bridge in Remagen was taken. And some other sorts of things. But those are the things that, again, wasn't just a family discussion. It was something that they kind of held private.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. And you said that some of this story included your father's experience with the fire department.
Correct.
And that was in Baltimore.
Correct. He was a Baltimore City fireman from 47 until 70. He retired the year I went on the police department. And the biggest item in it is based on a fire that the McCormick Spices fire in 1969. In fact, it was
okay.
It was December 31st of 1969 when McCormick Spices was still in the city. They're in Towson now, or Fox Valley, or Fox.
Yes, yes,
close
up
to
there,
Towson.
yes, but before they were in Baltimore.
Correct. They were in Baltimore City, actually, at the Bratton Light Street area. And it was a rather, intense fire. Use the term again. It was pretty good one. Lit up the whole city there for a couple of days, and that's the basis, the model for the one that I have in here, the drama that I've used in this one, as far as the city fire department went.
Okay, and basically, well, your dad certainly would be able to fill in
Correct.
Details on that.
Absolutely. He would. Well, my dad's been gone since 1978.
Okay, yes. And you definitely used Baltimore for background in this
Absolutely.
book.
We start out in Baltimore. And in fact, this past Sunday, 2 days ago, I was at the beginning. The story starts in the Highlandtown, in the Greektown section of Highlandtown, or actually, the correct pronunciation is Highlandtown. You have to be an East Baltimoreite to appreciate that. I was at a book presentation there this past Sunday at the Baltimore Gallery, just a half a block from where I started out as the book starts out.
Okay.
And it was pretty neat. It was a nice event. The young man, Jason Filippo, is the executive director of the Greektown Corporation Development Association, Greektown Community Development Association, hosted it, if you will. And it was referred to as the Books, Blues, and Baklava Festival at the Baltimore Gallery. And it went pretty well. It was a very, very nice day. Sold a few books, got to know a few people, and that sort of thing. But it was neat because it was where the book started and where I started.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Very nice to reminisce.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And it was only maybe 6 or 8 blocks from my father's firehouse. He was at 41 Engine on Conklin Street, which was, just a few blocks away. And that I incidentally grew up in that house.
Sure. Well, certainly I've seen ads for the book in the paper.
Good.
And so I'm sure our viewers have as well. And but it also talks about Bowie. So of course, since the show goes out to Bowie, what pieces of Bowie can be found in the book?
Well, through a turn of events, after my main character, Alec, who is incidentally a Dexter-type anti-hero, antagonist, protagonist, main character, if you will. A whole lot of hyphens.
Okay,
there.
so you rolled your antagonist and your protagonist together in
Correct.
this?
Right.
Okay,
right.
well, that saves time.
He's kind of like Howard Cosell, he's a guy that you love to hate.
Okay.
And, but in any case, through a series of events, he ends up in Bowie as a Bowie resident and serves as a Prince George's County police officer. The book obviously follows a lot of parallels in my life.
Sure.
And then becomes a member of the city, as a resident, of course, of the city of Bowie. He becomes, he gets elected to the city council, eventually goes on to state office. And I can't tell you too much beyond
Well, no,
that,
I don't want you to ruin it. I want you to give our
Correct.
viewers a taste enough to, to be interested in getting the book,
Correct.
which, again, we have information at the end of our program for them to check on that.
Very good. Yes, but it's a large part is in Bowie, and I like to read those kinds of things or be able to relate to books and movies like that, like Levinson, John Waters, George Pelecanos novels, and that sort of things. The things that you can relate to, and anyone that lives in Bowie, especially Bowie at Bel Air at Bowie at Bel Air, actually, I'm sorry. Will be able to, because I name streets, locations, and that sort of thing.
Oh, yes.
That's always fun to see.
It
At
is
least for me, it's fun to see.
Yes, it is fun when, you recognize
Correct.
an area and you can almost visually put yourself there.
Correct.
Yes.
And I like just to, on that line as well, point out another thing that Mr. Lucci, Len Lucci, who is often on this show, read it as well, and did me a stellar review of it on Amazon.
Excellent.
I am a lifelong Len Lucci fan after reading that.
Well,
really,
great.
Truly, he truly liked it. Took the time to write a review. It certainly made me proud
Yes.
of my work.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the cover has the book described as a story of a mystery, suspense, and extreme murder.
And that covers it. That's pretty good in a nutshell. It gets intense at times.
Yes, okay. Well, that's just really challenging to write that kind of a book, I'm sure. Like I said earlier, I think everybody always thinks they have a book
Correct.
in them. And kind of one of my favorite authors, at least for mysteries, is James Patterson. He once said, the challenge of writing a mystery is that you're almost writing two books. You're writing one to have a story to tell, and then you're writing a second book to sort of confuse your readers enough that they don't catch on immediately on clues that are left, on being able to solve the murder and still be able to read to the end of the book. So did you find it a challenge to have it be a mystery, not a challenge, or just this was the book you were always going to write?
No, it's just, let me kind of start from the beginning of that. I can't exactly answer that directly. I always thought, I was just like you just described, I thought that probably I had a good story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Again, based on my experiences, friends, and family. So almost 4 years ago to the day, January of 2008, I decided to do it.
Okay.
Took me 2 hours to write a 2-sentence first paragraph, which is now chapter 2. Chapter 1, chapter 2 was the beginning,
Okay.
in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But after I wrote that, I knew I could. But again, I never had any desire to tell a story or whatever other than what I just described. But after I wrote that first paragraph, I knew I could do it.
Okay.
I knew because it's a good paragraph and it was exactly what I wanted to say. Then everything just kind of came to me naturally. I didn't have, I guess that I violated some of the rules and protocol of novel writing, but it just came to me. It's like you've heard the term, you get in the zone.
Mm-hmm. You just got in the zone.
Just get in the zone and here it comes.
Okay, so for all of those would-be writers out there, your situation was probably then unique. You
Yes,
maybe had
absolutely.
this. You probably had this sort of boiling around in your head before you actually went to put it to paper. Maybe.
Correct, and I'm sorry that it took me to age 62 at that time to find out that I had a pretty good talent.
Yes.
But it's never too late, I guess.
Okay, but now can you tell our viewers a little bit about the challenges once you had a book? What do I do with it to get it out there?
Correct.
Because that's different a little bit now than it was perhaps in the past, but it does sound like that you've got an editor, so yours was a little more conventional rather than looking at self-publishing or something like that.
Correct. It is not. It's traditionally published. It's not. It's a. It's not self-published or published for fee.
Right.
And my publisher, All Things That Matter Press, a small company in Maine, bought it from me. They bought the book, and I was determined not to have it self-published,
right,
or published for fee because again, you lose a lot with that. In fact, some in the business itself, it really in the publishing business or the book business, the literature business, if you will, it's not even really considered. You're not even really considered a published author, as I'm sure you're aware. If you go that route, publishing. Right. If you go self-publishing or publishing by fee. So again, I wrote. I can't tell you how many letters, how many query letters to agents and different publishing companies to get it. And then finally these folks came through Mr. Phil Harris, through All Things That Matter Press, said, yeah, I like it. Here's the terms, we'll take it under. I said, done. And that was last March, and then it was published in August.
Excellent.
Hopefully that answers your question.
No, that does, absolutely, yes.
But the challenge, what I wanted to say that you had asked, the challenge, writing the book was the easy part. Getting it published traditionally was nearly impossible. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Right.
Finally it did.
Now, there's certainly marketing requirements with you as a new author. Book signing, do they still do that?
Yes, again, that's what I did this
When you were in
past Sunday. It was
Baltimore.
right. It was the book. It's a. I think they refer to them now as book presentations.
Okay.
And it usually involves a book sales, of course, but it's a book presentation. I did the one Sunday in Baltimore, and then I also did one with the Institute of World Politics in Washington, D.C., which is a graduate school at 1521 16th Street, Northwest D.C. Great organization. It's dean, professor, owner, whatever. John Lenkowski is a great guy, and it's a very, very, very unique school. So again, that's where they offered me my first opportunity at a book presentation. They're great people.
Excellent.
So yes. That's the deal here. And I'm supposed to have an audience with Mr. Baker, Rusher and Baker, from the Prince George's County
Certainly.
executive. I'm going to present him a complimentary copy and that sort of thing. And, yes, but it's been as compared to going to Bantam or Penguin or something like that, it's been a challenge. It's the marketing part of it. But I'm bound and determined to make it popular. And a minute ago, you talked about James Patterson. James Patterson, Laura Lippman would kill for this story.
Yes.
I'm telling you,
absolutely.
they both would, especially Laura Lippman.
That's excellent. So, I mentioned Patterson, but what authors do you, like if you're going to sit down and read, or even maybe before you wrote this book, that you would kind of use as, just to see what sort of tapped into your interest level? Yeah,
my favorite authors, and again, my favorite author is George Pelecanos. I like George Pelecanos particularly because of his Washington, D.C. and Prince George's County references.
Absolutely.
I mean, in fact, his edition, The Night Gardener, that he did a couple of years ago, is based on one of the Freeway Phantom case that serial killer terrorized Prince George's County in Washington, D.C. from April of 71 until September of 72. And I know it because I'm so familiar with it because I handled one of those investigations as a patrol officer. And again, it's mentioned here. But back to your question, I like Pelecanos because of the local flair, and again his particular brand. But then I fall into the other guys. I particularly like combat mystery sort of things. W.E.B. Griffith, James Webb, Grisham. Again for the D.C. flair. And that sort of thing. And again, Laura Lippman for the Baltimore thing. But although I'm born in just incidentally, although I'm born and raised in Baltimore City, I'm a D.C. guy now.
Okay.
For real.
Yes.
I truly like the city.
Well, I was going to say you live in Bowie, but you are still you're currently working, and you're working with the federal government.
Correct. I'm a background investigator for the federal government.
Right. So there's another book, maybe.
Well, no, not really. That's just kind of a boring, routine, mundane.
Okay.
Thank you for this job, Lord.
Okay. So you can think of other stories while you're doing something mundane.
Correct. I've had about 10 chapters of a sequel to this written for about the last 2 years, and it's more. And it's along these lines. It's an action novel.
Okay.
Same circa 44 to 83 that gets off to a big start.
Okay. Now, that's another thing about current contracts with your editor. Do you have like a 3-book deal or something like that? No, they just bought this book.
Correct. They bought that one
without the pressure, frankly, of being forced to meet somebody else's time schedule.
Correct. And again, on just an editorial note, I'm sure you're aware, but I don't know if the listeners are. With a lot of the publish for fee companies, publishers, they require you for the rest of your life to give them all you have, because with them, it's a numbers game. Now, these folks have been really good. They're innovative, aggressive, a new company, and very, very, very reasonable people. And gave me a full edit of the book as well.
Excellent.
And I can't talk about them enough.
That's
good
great.
enough. They're good
well,
people.
I want to tease our viewers and get them interested. And
Good.
quite frankly, when I'm looking for a book, I just open it to the first page and I read the first chapter. And honestly, somebody needs to sell me in the first chapter. Will that work for you?
Absolutely. And
Now, you said, though,
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jan. I'm sorry.
You said that actually you started this book's first chapter, or and first paragraph,
Correct.
though, with the second chapter. So I don't want to mess you up here.
No, not at all. I'm glad you mentioned it, too, because, again, when I started this book, when I started writing this, I was a complete novice. Not that I'm an expert now, but I had no idea of protocol. I had no idea of protocol, what a manuscript was supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. After I read it, after I wrote it, I read some editions, one in particular by a young man, an agent in New York, Noah Lukeman, called The First 5 Pages, and he explained the importance of a strong opening.
Okay.
And
well,
this has a strong opening.
I was going to say, we were getting our signal to wrap, and I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to just tease you. Please, please get the book In Sheep's Clothing. And thank you very much, Ed, for being our guest.
It's been my pleasure, truly.